Spirits with Matt Ray and Justin Grimble.
Well, Matt's not here today, just myself. So just Justin Grimble, since Matt ditched us because he got to work. So we got some special guests. We got Rob in the house in the red poncho.
Yep.
Mr. Toby Curtsinger in the blue poncho. Might know him as the Bourbon King. So how long did it take you to get here?
About 7 hours. I probably got here a little earlier. If hit a lot of traffic coming through Nashville down to
All the people
Birmingham
coming for the game.
Yeah. I guess, man, it was people from everywhere. I think a lot of people coming back home after the hurricane went through.
That's true too.
But it was, it would be going, and all of a sudden come to a standstill, and then go real easy standstill, and you could see up ahead, and I thought it'd be a wreck or something. I looked up and it'd just be two semis next to each other, barely.
Just nothing.
Big
a lot
lock
of
up
people
on
just sitting rubbernecking. I mean, I came from North Carolina, so
Same
Tennessee
thing.
River.
Yeah.
They come across that big causeway. They done the same thing on it.
Rob said you stopped at every Buc-ee's on the way here.
I tried to. I got my
I
wife.
think we talk. Yeah, we talk quite a bit, and every time there's the Buc-ee's coming up.
That's one of my new favorite stops. They got the best brisket I think I've eaten.
Beautiful.
It's
brisket.
just amazing.
Wish we had some right now. I mean, kind of
It
hungry.
would be good.
So what brings you down here?
Well, I run into you last fall, and
that's right.
we just got talking. I still got the cards you gave me for a free dinner at Jalapenos.
There you go. Have to use those later.
And
Yeah, he came to get his dinner.
talking to me and Rob. Rob's a good friend, lives over in North Carolina now. He's from Frankfurt, from where I live at.
Okay.
And we got a lot of mutual friends, and he kind of helps set a lot of stuff up for me. He reaches out, and so I gave him your info, and he touched bases with you. So
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. I was surprised when I heard from Rob. I'm like, damn, it actually paid off.
yeah, well, just and you know, I recently since June, I had been working with another guy, and then I got the ugly end of business. So we decided to kind of go in on our own. So it's been a little tough. It's you got to get out, got to get the advertising. Rob and I are on the phone a lot. It takes a while. You got to have a little capital, which
for sure.
Still trying to get back on my feet. So this it's difficult, but it's coming around.
Yeah, it's kind of cool how organically how it happened. Like I was listening to a podcast. This was probably 5 or 6 years ago, and they were talking about Pappy. And didn't know anything about Pappy. They're talking about how rare it is, and I think it mentioned a little bit about your story in there. It's called the Criminal Podcast. I don't know if you've heard of that one. They were talking about people in Frankfurt like selling Jello shots and getting death threats and all kinds of stuff. I'm like, I want to try it. I need to find a bottle of this. I went and asked ABC, y'all got any Pappy? I got my ass laughed off everywhere I went because I had no idea. Then I started learning about it, and I was like, I want to get a bottle. Finally, some underground, shit, I finally found a bottle. It was the 10-year. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Like took me 3.5 years, finally got my bottle. Then your story came out on The Heist on Netflix. I was like, hey, that's what I listened to on the podcast. Yeah. When did that come out? Last year? Year before last?
About 3 years ago.
3 years, okay.
It's 2 to 3 years ago. I'm trying to think of the exact date. Yeah.
And then we were doing we were at Maker's Mark doing a barrel pick with Fifth and Handle, and we were at Yellowstone. And I think I was talking to you during the tasting.
Yeah, we were sitting there, and you looked around, and you kind of give me that double take, and you look
because you look familiar.
You look like how do I know this guy? Where have I seen it from?
It's the head,
the waterhead.
Because you look like one of the builders that built my house, one of the developers. Like, because I was like, it kind of looks like Jeff and Jason. I was like, I don't know. Then somebody's like, you know who that is? I'm like, shit, I don't know. They're like, it's Toby. I'm like, I don't know. They're like, Bourbon King. I was like, whoa. They clicked together.
Yeah.
Then I went over. I was like, hey, can I take a picture? And he's like, do I know you? I was like, son of a bitch, it's not him.
A lot of people, you get that perception.
Yeah,
I mean, and if you follow Bourbon or you follow a story, if you're scrolling through Netflix, I mean, things pop up and it looks interesting, right?
Yeah.
If it's appealing, that may be the only way they would know him. But a lot of people will be out or somewhere. Like when we were in North Carolina, we did a presentation down there with Military Missions and Actions, a nonprofit group. Nobody knows unless you know, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're just that.
You're
You're a bourbon connoisseur,
you're a bourbon
and you
connoisseur.
follow the brands or you follow the
goes through.
story or history. I mean, anybody that knows anything about bourbon, I mean, we get a lot of pushback, blame because, Toby's partly part of the reason the bourbon boom happened.
Yeah.
Well, a little bit, yes, and a little bit, no. So
Yeah, that's what it was funny when I walked up to you and I was like, "Can I get a picture?" And you're like, "Do I know you?" I'm like, "That's some bitch."
I remember
That's not even him.
I remember him calling me and
That's
telling
not
me, he's
even
like,
him.
"Man, will you reach out to this guy? Super nice guy. I met him on a
I
tour."
think you're like, "Did we go to school together?" I was
Yeah,
like,
that's exactly
I went,
what
I
you
went to
told
Pappy
me.
school. You're like, "You son of a bitch, come here, take a picture with me." I was like, okay,
I do. A lot
Word
when,
for
when
word,
people do
that's
that,
exactly what
I
he
always
told
like
me.
looking at their expression. I'm
Yeah.
like, "Where you from?" I said, "Did I play softball with you or something?"
Yeah.
No, look, I've had a lot of people do that. Like, no, I've had people like, "Man, it's your voice. I know your voice from somewhere." I'll just sit there. And I just keep watching
mess
them.
with them.
I'll just wait
Yeah.
unless they, and they do. It's pretty funny.
And that's what we had that little interaction. Then before we left, I gave you the card and talked about it. With Matt was there with me and Brajesh, and then it was like a few months later that you called me or whatever. I'm like, damn, it actually paid off. Which we were talking about, like you don't ever know who you're going to meet. Connections, like
That's true. That's true. And I had the year I worked with this last company. It took me a little bit to, I've seen things, and and it turned out pretty ugly. But the one thing I will say, it did give me an opportunity to get back into the bourbon community.
Yeah, for sure.
Reach out, kind of learn and learn some things, and some of the things I wish not wish I hadn't learned, but was kind of rough and hard, which Rob knows. But it taught me a lot, and I know what to look for now. But it got me back out and active in the bourbon world.
Then the Bourbon King name, did you come up with that, or was that Netflix came up with it? How's that come about?
When Netflix, I actually was talking to a production company out of Chicago.
Okay.
And I was talking to them. We went over some things, and then which I didn't do any social media. And, I was telling I done a tour yesterday. I had some guys from Terre Haute, Indiana, and we were talking. And I told them, I was like, "Look, man," and they reached out. They'd seen Heist. And they reached out to me on private messenger, and that's how I set that up. That's how I get a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I told them, I was like, man, I was like, I'm as country as country. I said, I went to a small school, over 300 kids, K through 12, graduated 26 people. I said, I fish, hunt, I coon hunted, I deer hunt, rabbit hunt. I still do that, when I get the chance. And I was like, I didn't have social media or anything, so my wife was on that. But they had got my phone number. So when I was talking to this group, then Derek Doheen, which was the producer for the Dirty Robber company, he and Greg Harvey reached out to Julie. So they flew in, and Greg spent a month with us.
Oh, wow.
So we did, and I mean, Greg's originally from Florida, and he great guy. Derek was, and the way they were going to do it, they wanted to make it. They wanted to not make it like the media had it.
Yeah.
They wanted to put a human side on it.
I got you.
And it gave us a platform to kind of tell a little bit about what happened, because everything that you've seen in the papers or was on TV was the sheriff and the Commonwealth Attorney's Office.
Sure. Typical Main Street media.
So, and I've had like the guys yesterday. They asked me, I was like, "Well, how much was that? Was that really true?" I was like, "A lot more of that was true." I said, "The only thing I will say that they asked me if they could change is when the guy I used to work with came up and threw the big wad of money down, and it was the Van Winkle. It was some wine. It was some French Bordeaux wine, because at that time, I had a guy ask me, at that time, you could go anywhere in Frankfurt and get the 20-year Van Winkle on the shelf for $112, and it would have an inch of dust on it. Nobody drank it. Nobody drank that at
Nobody
all.
knew what it was. I mean, they knew what it was. It was top tier bourbon, but
it wasn't that.
it was not your $19 or $29 bottle of bourbon, right? It was sexy bourbon, right? It was the bourbon you buy to have an event or just
Kind of
say,
like a Dom Perignon. And
Right.
Back
A little
at that,
fancier.
because at that, I'm thinking about that time. It was probably, you could go and get a bottle of Blanton for $22. Elmer T. Lee was about $20.
sitting on the shelf.
You didn't, and I think the most expensive stuff that that I remember, because they didn't at that time, or I guess we did have the Van Winkle line, but with the exception of that, you had the antique collection. You had the 17-year, the George Stagg, and that was about $45. That's what that
crazy.
was then.
Yeah, they're going for like $1,500 now.
Yes, I know. And I'm telling you, man, I was talking
Crazy.
with the guys yesterday, and we went into a little store in Bardstown, Kentucky, Toddy's Liquor. They've always got these odd bottles, but I looked up George Stagg, and they had the Sazerac 17-year.
Yeah.
I looked up and they had $1,800 on it. I was looking at that. I looked over. I said, if you'd have known me about 15 years ago, you could have got them for $25 a piece.
It was crazy. Somebody showed me a price list from ABC here at our liquor stores. They had, I think it was the Pappy 15 on closeout because nobody was buying it. I was like, you can't even get it now. It comes out once a year, and you got to be the first 3 people in the lotto.
There's
to get
lotteries. There's
crazy.
everything.
Remember,
but-
have you seen the MSP on a lot of that?
Yeah,
like
absolutely,
one of my buddies that works at Capital Cellars in Frankfurt, he said they don't get it because they don't sell enough Fireball.
yeah.
You got to sell
Oh, yeah, that's a
Fireball
big thing
to get
for 'em, for
allocated.
sure. Yeah.
But the 20-year Van Winkle was like $212,
Yeah.
but they can't get it.
Yeah. It goes. I think that one goes for 2,500.
25 plus. Man. Yeah.
And don't get us wrong, it's good bourbon. They have a good market. They have a very good product. It's just, the bourbon boom happened.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what drives, it's supply and demand. That's what drives the price of it up. Everybody wants to come. They want to get it. They want to see the place. And it's good bourbon.
That's when I was first getting into it. It was Alabama was in national championship in Indianapolis. So me and my buddy Todd, we stayed in Louisville, did some tours, and I think we went to, it was Evan Williams, that little Evan Williams experience they have.
Yeah.
They had like $150 bottle, the 12-year. I'm like, I'm paying $150 for that. And we tried it. We're like, man, that's good. I'm gonna get one of those.
But as long
And I
as
was,
people are
downhill
paying
from
those
there.
secondary prices, it won't ever stop because that's
It
that's
eventually-
the thrill of the hunt. That's
It
what
is.
these bourbon hunters or head hunters do. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just the world.
I'm
we're in.
waiting for it to peak because I think my sister's a warehouse manager at Woodford Reserve, and she said they're already starting to see a flat line in the market.
A little bit. It's
And,
kind of moving towards tequila now. It's kind of tequila's.
I remember with
boom.
tequila at the time they didn't have enough agave.
Yeah.
You remember that? It
Yeah,
hadn't
now
been
they're
that long
getting-
ago.
Now that's getting a boom.
Well, I mean, when I started at Buffalo Trace, it was Age International back in '88.
Mm-hmm.
There was only I was like the 40th person working there. I mean, bourbon was dead. Nobody
Yeah.
drank bourbon. And they came out. They had the single barrel Blantons, and that basically revolutionized the bourbon market.
Yeah.
Then everybody started, picked up a little steam, and then when Sazerac bought the company out, and they brought all the different products up, like the vodkas and all the flavored things and
Yeah,
stuff.
Wheatley vodka
Well, that
and all that.
that increased our the employee count. And then in the '90s, when I was over, was it the '90s or early 2000s when I was in shipping? That's when they acquired the collaboration with Julian Van Winkle.
Okay.
And they brought that stuff in. But realistically, you get an order, you'd maybe have 1 or 2 cases. You didn't ship that much out of it.
Yeah.
Then the 2013 when it hit, everybody was like, "What are they talking about?" And they started scrambling a little bit. And then 2 years later, 10 years ago, boom, that's when they come in, and that's when I got arrested. And you can trace it back. I really didn't think about it, but one of the guys Rob knows. When all this was going on, I was in talks with the feds, and he made the statement. He said, if you trace that back and look, he said they're the number one distillery now. They're worth billions of dollars, and look, they're buying everything.
Yeah,
and you can trace that back. You can go back and look at their finances the last 10 years, and look how much how much money that place has made, and anything they make. And just like we were talking earlier, the Weller 12-year. I can remember when it was like $50 a bottle.
It's just crazy.
I mean,
to
it's
think of,
not super expensive, but I seen some yesterday for like $2.89.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm like you. The only bottle I will buy and I will drink is that Yellowstone Toasted Barrel, which you can only get there, and they only got 4 more barrels they're going to bottle. And to me, that is the best out there right now.
Yeah, I fell in love with Yellowstone. It's really good bourbon.
But you're in the restaurant business. Obviously you're tied into the ABC.
Yeah.
And when you buy liquor or your allocation said, you know what liquor costs, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So
And like you were saying earlier, they'll come to you. It's all the game. Like, hey, I need you to buy some of this one, and we'll give you some Eagle Rare later.
Well,
it's
that's,
all. Let me do something for you, and I'll do something back and forth. And I tell them straight up, like, hey, if you give me something good, I'm not going to try to sell it on the secondary. I'll sell it at my restaurant or drink it myself. Like, I'm not trying to flip it and make money. I was like, but if y'all need something, like you want to sell some Wheatley vodka, I got 4 stores, so I'll get it at all 4, give you 4 placements. Just help me out later, Give me something.
I got a friend of mine that lives back in Lawrenceburg. His son's actually backup quarterback for the Bengals, Jason Woodside, Rob's distant cousin.
There you go.
But he owns a liquor store, White Dog, and I went up there and he had a bottle of 20-year, but he was telling me, I was like, how are you getting all this? He had a 17-year Eagle Rare. Yeah. He said, I sell more Fireball than 3 states combined.
Yeah,
he said,
too.
And then I talked to some other people, and they was like, that's what we got to sell. It's kind of like De Beers diamonds. You got to sell all these low-grade diamonds to get these 2 good diamonds.
Yeah, they get the good
that was
stuff.
interesting when you told me that. I mean, I'm not into this, right?
Yeah.
So I don't really know. I don't bourbon hunt. I enjoy bourbon, but I didn't know the backstory of how you get allocations.
Yeah.
Is it true?
That's how you.
factual? 100%.
It's like if you and that's like if you go down to
So
six.
they have a flagship product.
Yeah.
and it's whatever's hot on the market right now.
Yeah, they'll call you, like, not just, Sazerac, all of them. They'll call you, hey, we really need to pump out, Jim Beam, this product. Can you buy these Jim Beam flavors that taste like shit? Yeah, I'll buy them at all 4 of them. You don't get me something good? Yeah, I'll allocate you this later.
And that's how that happens?
I think they were really putting a lot of money on that Traveler whiskey they came out with.
Traveler was another one.
But when before that came out, some of my buddies that still worked there, I was asking myself, they was like personally they didn't like it because I think they said it was like a blend of some Canadian. I'm not sure.
Yeah, they never released.
But I tasted it,
and
like
different distillery blend.
I can't believe that they didn't get something a little bit better with that.
We did a review. I enjoyed it.
Like
It wasn't amazing. It was kind of.
Man, it's Chris Stapleton.
Yeah, I mean,
you think you would put something on it that's going to like bam, wow.
Like, it was good, but it wasn't up there good like you were saying. I think they banked a lot of money on that because you don't see it in much places anymore.
Well, when
they put a lot into it.
We went down for the charity thing with military missions in North Carolina. There was a guy that's got the 2A distillery,
Tim Oates,
and
a good friend of mine.
He brought his 2A bourbon, and we were talking, and I'm always kind of skeptical because I'd never heard of it or anything.
Yeah.
And he told me, he said this was out in San Francisco, and we put it up against the Eagle Rare 10-year.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, I was like, personally, I said, that's the best thing I like from Buffalo Trace.
Yeah.
And he said 4 out of 5 people picked mine over. And I was like, really? I said, so he gave me a bottle to set up, and that's what I was drinking during the presentation. Mm-hmm. And I told him, I said, you made a blip, and it is damn good bourbon.
We had
it's
a lot
really
of
good.
that was our house bourbon of the night, sponsored by 2A Second Amendment Bourbon.
I think we did a review on
it is
one.
really good.
It's bottled through Constitutional Spirits. That's Tim Oates. He's the founder,
and a reasonable price too.
Yeah,
you don't have to break your leg.
It's good, and we had more people go to the bar and had no idea.
What it was.
And they would take a pour and like, wow, this is.
Yeah, my wife doesn't like
good.
bourbon, and she tasted it, and she was like, that is pretty smooth.
I like doing blind tasting with people. We did my house one night. I had a little sample of Pappy 23. So I just put a little bit in a cup and some different like Swellers and Blantons. And my buddy was like, this tastes like shit. What is this? I was like, that's the most expensive thing I have.
Burnt wood.
Like, he's like, it tastes like oak. It's gross.
Yeah. Well, you get.
But if you tell them what it was, they're like, this is the best thing I ever had.
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
placebo effect.
That's what gets the blind tastings.
You have no idea.
And we did a couple that night our goal was to, it was held in North Carolina, and our goal was to open North Carolinians to their own in-state bourbon.
Yeah.
We did a couple blind pours, and we had a bourbon steward there, James Byers.
Yeah.
And some of them were surprised that you didn't have to spend a lot of money to get a good product, and it came from, our state.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll always tell people, because on the Mexican restaurants with tequila, they're like, what's your favorite? That one, this one. I'm like, I don't really like any of the super expensive ones. I like some of these mid-level ones. They taste better to me.
And that's where you find the hidden gems.
I haven't drank a lot of expensive tequilas like we were talking about, the Selección Supreme.
Yeah.
It's kind of, to me, like it's got a little bourbon hint to it.
Yeah, it does got a little age, a little longer. And
now, if I'm drinking tequila in my house, I like the Don Julio Añejo, or I like the Patron Añejo.
Patron 1800
or
chilled.
the Herradura. I like that right there. I've never really drank any mezcal, but something like that. Now, the Cuervo and all that, I got sick too many times on Cuervo. So
we do a tequila experience, we call it, downtown, where like get 20, 30 people. We have 4 different tequilas. We pair it with food. And I always tell people, like, hey, this isn't the shit you had in college. We have no limes, no salt. It's room temperature. You're going to enjoy it just like you would a bourbon. And everybody's like, nah,
that
I need
instigates
salt.
my chilled factor right there.
Yeah, but I mean, and I worked in shipping for 10 years, and I knew nothing about wine, knew nothing about tequila, and that 10 years working with, and I learned a lot about wine, and I love, like, the drier, the better. I love a good red dry Bordeaux. And the wine that they used to import was a Chateau Palmer. It was about $300 a bottle, and that is the best wine I've ever tasted. And it comes and like with tequila, I learned a lot about it. And after you get in, you see the different kinds, because you can just go in the liquor store and like, well, look at all this alcohol. And you're right. You can spend $100 and get a bottle of bourbon that tastes like crap, or you can spend 20 and it tastes like. Yeah. But and a lot of people ask me, well, what's the best? I'm like, what I like, maybe not what you like. I said, my advice is go out and try anything you can afford. You don't have to spend $50 a pour. Yeah. Go out and just try something. Get a couple of friends, go together, like get you a bourbon group. Yeah. Everybody pitch in and just start tasting stuff.
That's basically what we do on Friday nights. We get together.
You know what I got in my kitchen right now? I got I got the Penelope toasted.
That's a
I
good
got the Yellowstone rum cast finished. I got
really good.
the Yellowstone toasted barrel.
Yeah.
I got Woodford double oak, and I got about a half a bottle of Eagle Rare. But when it's gone, it's gone.
You also love that Glens Creek OCD
And
5.
Glens Creek OCD number 5. But I didn't get a bottle of the 2A. Rob didn't give me one when I left.
There's one waiting on
Yep,
you.
they
You
waiting
got to
somewhere.
come back to get it.
I was saying that's what we do on Fridays. We'll get together. I mean, a couple of guys in the neighborhood, and like I'll get some different bourbons. They get something like, hey, let's try it. Like I open. That's my problem. I open everything because I don't try to sell it. If you give me a bottle, like I'm gonna open it. My wife makes fun of me. Like she's like, you're walking from the mailbox opening the bourbon. I'm like, been waiting all week for it to show up.
But what's
Try it out,
difficult
you know?
about it is like a lot of this stuff that Toby can get in Kentucky. Kentucky's not an ABC state.
Yeah, for sure.
North Carolina is, Alabama is, so
Yeah.
it's hard to get it because you can't transport that stuff. You can't do it. You also you would have to have an event at your facility or place of choice or restaurant. It's hard to share those experiences, right? You can't. There's just some restrictions there, so it's
That's what we're in some different bourbon groups, and I said, y'all invite y'all over tonight. We call it the Double Doozy Club because we drink too much, and I get my daughter's boyfriend to go buy us cookies.
Cookies and bourbon.
They don't knock it to you. Try
that.
it.
Well, what we're drinking here is almost like what is that? A porter's?
It's a porter, yeah, from Druid City or
And I don't
some good stuff.
That's-
My buddy
that's,
Bo
I
I
made
don't
it.
do a dark beer, but that's
I don't either.
pretty
But
good.
that is. That's
pretty
They
good.
only made 100 bottles of this last year. They do it once a year.
How many more you got?
I mean, I think that was the last one.
No, you got.
There's another one in there.
more. I'm
Okay,
like-
good.
yeah.
It's good stuff.
and you
It's-
got a different one in the back. It's got
Yeah.
green wax.
I think the green wax they did it in it's got some kind of eggnog cast or something they did, and it's something a little different. I can't remember exactly what it is.
Kate loves eggnog.
It's good stuff.
Can't do eggnog.
I mean, like you said, it's almost like a super dark pitch
But
black.
it's got a bourbony, chocolatey,
It's got an amaretto look.
like a finish to it, but it's good.
Get you some more of it.
Come on,
Good.
hit me with that Penelope toasted there. I think I want to pull
That,
that.
we were talking about that when,
That
we,
is-
were, when we
I-
were
I do-
talking about getting together down in North Carolina. We were looking for that.
I like the toasted barrels. I really do.
And what was the? I can't remember his name offhand. The distiller with the traveler, the Wheatley. What's his first
Harlan
name?
Wheatley.
Wheatley.
Harlan came after I was there.
Okay.
I know. Harlan had a son that graduated with
That's
my
right.
son.
So we did that review for the Traveler, and like I put a cowboy hat on, and people made fun of my ass all over the internet. That I was a dumbass redneck and didn't know what I was doing. And I got a random email from Buffalo Trace. Hey, we saw your review on YouTube. We want to send you something. They sent me a signed bottle by Harlan Wheatley. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't
I
advertise
know.
or nothing.
Yeah.
I know you're not friends with him, but still, it's still cool.
Well, it's not by my choice. It's his choice.
Hey, two
He's-
rednecks in Alabama to get some recognition from our little podcast. That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So you want to dive into your story a little bit while you're sipping on some
just
Penelope?
go ahead. Just just you fire away whatever you need to know.
I want to just tell me how it started out, the infamous story.
The infamous story, or just
general.
starting out at 19 years old. I was actually I was enrolled at a college in Southern Kentucky. Lindsey Wilson came home for Christmas, and I was a homebody, man. I never went anywhere,
Yeah.
and I was really basically homesick. And I hung out with a friend of mine while I was on Christmas break, and he went and put his applications in down in Frankfurt at the unemployment office. And the girl that took the applications had graduated a year ahead of us. And she asked, "Do you want to fill some out?" And I'm like, "Yeah, might as well." I said, "I'm not doing anything else." So my mom asked me what I'd done, and I told her. She said, "Where'd you fill them out at?" And I think it was like 3. And I said one of them was for a whiskey place, Ancient Age. She was like, "Really?" She said, "One of my best friends at the hospital's husband's the personnel manager there." So I was sitting there at the house. The next day, phone rang, and they called and had me set up for a physical. So mom was like, "Well, you can either go back to school or you can go get you a job."
That'll work.
So yeah, I went and done the physical, and the rest was history.
Yeah.
Started out in the warehouse. I worked there for a couple years. Moved over to the bottling house, and that's when when Blanton kind of started taking off. They had to start a second shift. There was only like 8 people that worked in there. And you've been to Buffalo Trace. You know where the Blanton Hall is now. All right, if you look across, there's a small building over there. That's where Blanton started out.
Okay.
That is an old railroad conductor house. The rail line used to run right between those buildings down through there. So so that's where it started. So I was on second shift for about a year, and being 21, 20 years old,
Yeah.
I about got fired because every Friday night my mom was sick or I had to pick somebody up at the airport. It was really hard, man, because I still had a lot of friends, and there was
Second shift at that age. I did that a little bit.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, football, Friday night football
yeah.
games and stuff. So, but I squeaked it out, and then they were talking about how things were picking up, and they were talking about introducing some new products.
Mm-hmm.
So we're Blanton Hall is now. That was where the break room was.
Okay.
So where all the warehouse and a lot of people took break.
Yeah.
So they moved the break hall over to where when you first walk into the gift shop now, that was the break room.
Okay.
And then
Completely different.
yeah, where the break room is now is where personnel was. It sits right over, kind of in between the Blanton Hall and the barbecue or the Firehouse Cafe.
Okay. Yeah.
That was personnel. So when they moved, they put one big line in. That's the only thing they put in, the big line you see. And they started running the Blantons, and Blanton started taking off. Mm-hmm. And they done a second shift, so I got stuck in second shift in there again. So
So what was your job doing in there?
it was just all that whole line, man.
All parts of it.
Yeah, you've seen how they. I mean, the hardest thing in there is the neck wraps.
Yeah.
Man, just constantly sitting there, then bottles coming down, and you had to rub those. And
They
those
just
labels
rotate you to different
Yeah,
positions.
every time you took a break, then
Okay.
you'd move to the next job.
Okay,
You got
I
the
got you.
bo-
You don't get burned out.
Yeah,
The
that's what I'm
typical
saying. Yeah.
typical line or production work.
So I was in there for a while. Then a shipping job came up, and so me and another guy bid, and then they just took it down. They said, "Well, we don't need two shippers." Mm-hmm. So then they put it up again, and eventually we got over there. So I was in shipping for about 10 years, and one of the guys I worked with, he's not around anymore, but he was the one that kind of introduced me to if you want something, just go ahead and take it, because anything they get, it's kind of goes as breakage. He said either or they got a remnants room. Mm-hmm. So, but man, people took stuff out of there all the time.
Oh, I'm sure.
Especially like warehouse, you get you get the clear bottles, fill your bottle of barrel whiskey, and it's like it's kind of like everybody knew it, but they didn't talk about it. Drinking on the job, oh my God! You know how many times I've packed people. I've got packed out there when I was younger a couple times, but people getting packed out there like crazy. And a lot of the supervisors, the older supervisors, had worked there, and they knew how it was. They'd say, "Hey, just get him out of here." It's not like that now. If they caught somebody drinking now, well, hell, they'd probably press charges against them.
It's probably completely different now. You can't do all that.
Everything's different. So, it went from that, and then, it just, things got, when the Sazerac guys came in, the New Orleans people were laid back, sure. Which, and after getting to know a lot of those people and talking to them, and I understand, it just, some of the stuff I heard went on down when they had their place at Jefferson and Magnolia Street. Mm-hmm. Containers coming up missing, then people quitting and starting their own microbreweries and all this stuff. And but it was basically anything you wanted. All you had to do, there was you say, "Hey, I need a couple cases of this."
Yeah.
It's commonly referred to as a good old boy method.
Yeah. I mean, and
system.
A lot of people nowadays would probably say, "Oh, that never happened down there." That's a damn lie, man. There is not one person that has worked at that distillery. I mean, maybe not now, but when I was there, that has never took anything out of there.
I'm
and
sure. Yeah.
it gets down to eventually, and I never did go for that selling stuff, but I knew people that I knew girls that paid their rent with liquor.
Yeah.
I knew people that had their vehicles fixed with liquor. I'm serious, man, and supervisors in general, I've helped them load the back of their cars up for the weekends, going to parties and stuff. I've seen guards take it out, and it's but when we do the presentation, well, I tell a lot of people what a lot of people don't know. One of the government guys explained this to me. The officials of the state of Kentucky had created, I don't know if it's a law, a tax break for distilleries. And what that means is it's a breakage tax.
Okay.
So I don't know if it goes by month or it goes by the end of the year. And like I said, this is what the man told me. So you're Jim Beam, all right?
Or your Distillery X.
Okay, yeah, let me rephrase
Distillery X.
You're a Distillery X. All right, and you've got people that really like your product. Maybe you want to get something kind of help pass down the state, or you want something in the county you're in. So the county you live in, some of their officials all of a sudden get tons of liquor.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at books and stuff, well, hey, hold on. Well, that was broke. So these officials have created not a clause. I'm trying to think how to put that. So you can claim that as breakage. You get a breakage percentage. Okay. So it was created by the officials, so the officials could get free liquor.
Loophole.
By you giving me a free liquor, I'm giving you a tax break, so you can write it off as taxes.
Good old boy loophole.
That's how you see a lot of this stuff floating out around. Because
now is that? I mean, that's just hearsay.
That is what the government official told me, and I said, okay, I understand that now.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Because when he told me that, while I worked in shipping. I know, the 2013, the 27 cases come on, and I'm like, well, hell, that ain't nothing. Yeah. I was like, if you had seen how many cases was always on inventory that we was off, I mean, there was one guy that was head of an organization in the town. Mm-hmm. One day a week, we would go to lunch, and he never showed up for lunch. You'd see him. He'd have a pallet built about half, wrapped in plastic. And he had a relative that would come in, and he'd put it in the back of the truck, he'd throw a tarp on it, and they would sell it that night. He'd come in with a wad of cash, buy everybody's lunch next day. Yeah. He'd done that for years, but nothing ever come up missing. Mm-hmm. Nothing ever come up missing. It was always kept in-house until the 2013, and I believe they had a new supervisor over there who didn't know how everything was played, and he called who? The media whore. And then he got a hold of it and said, oh, what is this Van Winkle stuff? And as he got to looking into it, then he made his infamous thing on TV. We've had a theft at Buffalo Trace, this extremely rare bourbon that you can't hardly find, and everybody's like, what's he talking about? And that kind of got the fire going. Yeah. Then fast forward 2 years, and then here's my ass on TV in the orange jumpsuit and chained 2 other dudes in jail, and then it exploded. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the rest is history.
And then everybody else is, and profits have soared and I never thought about this either until I've had some people. They're like, we know where you used to work. And I was like, yeah, just go down there and look. I said, man, they're buying stuff like crazy. Yeah. But, he got to think, he said, well, think about it in general. He said, where was the bourbon market 10 years ago in general? I mean, yeah, it was all right. Think about it. I mean, seriously, just sit and think 10 years ago, not just Buffalo Trace, Sazerac product, but in general, the bourbon market.
Bourbon as a whole.
Yeah. As a whole. Right. Go back 10 years. I would like to see the bourbon the market profits 10 years ago compared to now. Yeah. And I mean, I'm just being honest. And, Rob and I were telling you about some stuff which I'm trying to figure out how to explain to the public on that one issue we talked about earlier. But, I'm not looking for a handout, and I've had people say, are you remorseful? I said, well, yeah, I hate everything happened. I said, and I wish I hadn't have done what I done. I said, I'd done it, for my family, but I was like, I can't take it back. I can't let whatever in the past destroy in the future, trying to get back on my feet. And it's just like, people just want to keep knocking you back down.
That's the misconception that we get. I've had people approach me, well, why you support a convicted felon? Yeah, he's a friend of mine. We knew each other years ago, right? I used to work with his wife's brother. If you Frankfurt, small town, if you knew this knew this crew, you knew Toby. We worked at the same gym together. He makes this joke like I used to change his plates on his bars, which is not true. Yeah. But again, the misconception is this is just for him this is not a redemption tour. We're not going on, or he's not going on slandering people. This is not what it's about. Yeah. I mean, it's about him to just talk about it. For the longest time, he couldn't talk about it. And we're not saying anything derogatory. I mean, there may be some comments here and there because there's a little animosity between others or some, but this is not in any way, shape, or form to belittle or berate or challenge the David versus Goliath here. Yeah, that's not what we're after. He has a story. Who doesn't love a good story? Who doesn't love bourbon?
But like he said, I got a story, but it's like you try to tell it or you want to share it, but then you still got certain entities that want to just keep you down and just shut up, go on. Where we're at, you just be quiet.
Yeah, I mean,
And I mean, I'm like, it's not. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. Everybody asks me what, and I'm trying. And there's a lot of shit that I haven't let out.
Yeah.
That's what me and him's talk. And I said, because I don't want to cause no harm to anybody and stuff. I said, but there's a lot of stuff that probably could come back and bite a lot of people in the ass. Yeah. But I haven't done that. I don't want to do that.
And
I'm just trying to get back above water.
That's not what this is about. Yeah. He did what he did. He knows what he did. Everybody knows what he did. He doesn't lie about it and say he didn't do that because he did, right? The ways it was portrayed was a little bit, a little one-sided. Again, he did what he did.
And it's like, I tell people when we do our Bourbon King presentations, I was like, look, man, before I start this, I just want to let everybody know. I said, I am not a saint. I didn't get just totally screwed. I said, there was some things. I said, I'm not saying I didn't. Yeah. I was like, but that 2013, I had nothing to do with that.
There were a lot of gaps in there.
There was a ton of gaps.
They make it look out to be like you did single-handedly every single thing. That's how the media kind of portrays it sometimes. Well,
you know what's kind of
instead, like you said, everybody was kind of doing it a little bit.
They're still doing it. Yeah. But there was a couple things in that I bring to people's attention. I was like, I was talking to the guys I had on tour yesterday about, I said, one of the things they brought up if you look at the documents they were talking about, I was responsible for 89 cases of Eagle Rare. That was a boy that worked there. Ray Osborne showed up at my house with all that night. Yeah. But the kicker on that, they wanted to charge me with that. But guess what? Buffalo Trace never friggin' stated it is
missing or whatever.
Is missing. They never. So, well, what did you put on your your stuff? Yeah. You don't have anything missing. The only thing ever missing was 2013, which they never found, and you had a guy that admitted taking it. Yeah. And I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but the facts of the story, what I just told you, and see, I don't think you know this. Wild Turkey and Buffalo Trace never pressed charges against me. Wild Turkey has no missing barrels. They never have. Yeah. Out of numerous in and out of house inventories, they have no missing barrels. The whole purpose of coming to my house was for stolen Wild Turkey barrels. Did they come from there? Maybe they did. Probably they did. Yeah. But they don't have any missing barrels, and they weren't even on my property. So, realistically, what should you charge me with? Yeah. So manufacturing bourbon without a permit. But I mean, there's the only thing ever recorded missing was that. That's it. That's the only thing that was ever. So you being who you are. Now, is that kind of making you go, well, wait a minute?
Yeah, it don't make a lot of sense. Like I said, if they didn't press charges with it, just the
sheriff. The sheriff grabbed it. What he done that night before I even got put in the car, he already had Leah Searcy from 18 News. He used to work with her husband over in Versailles. He had her at my house on camera. And then he called all these, and they just blew it.
Hollywood moment for him.
Yeah, and then after everything started playing out, he seen he didn't what he have, so he let the media he used the media to basically publicly prosecute me. Yeah. Because if I'd have known what I know now, I'd have went probably to Louisville. This one attorney I talked to, I got a different attorney. We probably wouldn't be sitting there because it would have got thrown out because of illegal search and seizure. And
it just played out, and you got thrown under the bus.
Oh, I've seen how that legal system works. If you if you don't have the finances, they'll just keep taking you to court, and then when you run out of money because the state's pockets are deep, and then you're screwed. You don't have a choice.
So you're ready to make a deal.
Yeah. So whatever they busted you at your house with, what do you think happened to all that stuff?
Oh, they said they destroyed it, but you know what? I'm like, you ever see the movie Josie Wells? You never seen Outlaw Josie Wells? I'll be like, what, Fletcher? He said, don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining. You got to watch that, man. Yeah, I don't believe in that. I don't believe anything they say.
It's like people always say, like, the government's going to come after your guns. I'm like, I got 27 guns. But like, no, I don't have any guns. I threw them all in the river last week. I'm sorry. I don't have anything here anymore.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing with that. You know they didn't destroy that stuff.
Why would you destroy... And that was another thing too with the evidence room, the sheriff's department. Later on, as things played out, his chief deputy he and his wife got charged with 4 D felonies for falsifying tax records. Well, he was in charge of the evidence room. Yeah. They didn't have any inventory of what came in the evidence room. Yeah. So I'm sitting there thinking, they had stuff that people was turning in barrels that. We don't know what it is. And then he had 27 bottles of 20-year.
There was stuff that were surrendered as part of this, that weren't even part of
anybody that's got anything bringing in
the heist or the scandal. I mean, Yeah, I mean, I could have went down there and turned the bottle in.
Yeah,
And,
if you had any
if
inclination,
you knew this guy or if you talked to him, I mean, everybody was
Now,
freaking out. Like
there
we
was
gotta turn this in.
27 bottles of 20 year that was turned in, or 20 bottles that was turned in, and they try to say this was a 2000, which I knew it wasn't.
Yeah.
I knew where it come from. They had no idea because when we had a meeting with our attorney, I was like, well, let's go. I'll prove that that's not 2013. And she was like, well, how do you know that? I said, because the 2013, they switched to a PSL label, which is pressure sensitive, comes off a sticker. I said, the ones they have from 2008 were run through a pot dev and glue and pressed on the bottle.
so you can tell the
I
difference.
said, they have no idea where those bottles come from.
Yeah.
They're not even recorded missing. Just like the barrels.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And my dad, she got mad and cussed at my dad one day. My dad said, I don't understand something. She said, well, what is it? He said, how in the hell can you charge somebody with stolen property when the where it's supposed to come from, they don't have anything missing?
Yeah, that don't make sense.
She said,
Explain to them what you explained. It's the ghost barrels or they're pulled out. There was a word you used.
You talking about when on the to the grand jury?
Yeah.
Yeah, Detective Jeff Farmer, which is, and I don't care, he's a lying bastard. He gave a statement to the grand jury that the 5 barrels found behind my shed matched the 5 that were reported missing from Wild Turkey in 2014. Said they went to where they were, and there was 5 barrels missing where 5 barrels were supposed to be. And in my talks with the federal investigators, because at this time, and I was notified, from my talks with the feds were investigating the sheriff and his detectives, and he was investigating the Commonwealth attorney and some judges. That's what I took from it. I told the Fed said, he said, I just want to know what you know. And I told him, I said, well, you got Jeff Farmer lying to the grand jury right there. He said, well, how's he lying? I said, listen to me. I said, me and you're good. He said, we're good. I said, if those 5 were reported, I said, what about the other fucking 8 or the other 3? He said, what do you mean? I said, there was 3 more. I'd already got rid of them. And he was like, I said, you got him lying right there. I said, they don't have any missing barrels.
If there was truly barrels missing, they would have had 8 missing.
They would have had 8.
Because there was 8 in total.
So
they found 5.
He lied to the grand jury. He went right in there and I knew he was.
He found 5 at your house. Was like, yeah, we're missing 5.
This is the 5 that Wild Turkey said. And see, I was always told they lied to the judge because I had a state police detective ask me. He said, well, let me ask you a question. He said, what did they find at 50 St. John's? I said, nothing. I said, the barrels were on another property. Yeah. He said, well, how in the hell did they get one for your house? I said, they lied to the judge. But after the judge signed it and everything blew up, you think a judge is going to go in there and say, well, yeah, they did lie to me. Yeah. They're not going to do that because they pulled my father-in-law in on it. And that's another thing. They charged my wife with everything they charged me with. I had 6 bottles of steroids in my safe, which, man, here's the thing. I don't give a piss. In the gym, everybody, 95% of law enforcement and firemen are on steroids. Yeah. I don't give a piss when anybody says, I don't care. That's just the fact. And what's amazing now, after all this happened, now these wellness clinics have popped up, and they're all on testosterone booster. Yeah. So that's the legal. I'm serious. It's the legal way.
The loophole.
Another loophole. And that kind of changed it. But my wife got charged with everything I did because I wouldn't take their plea deal. They even made the statement. The Commonwealth attorney, Zach Becker, let me say former, he just got fired, but he was having an affair with one of the judge's assistants. But he said, if you don't sign the plea, we're going to indict your wife. I said, well, if he's going to arrest her, you'd arrest her at Knight's house. Yeah, and I said, she didn't do anything. And he made the statement, I can indict a ham sandwich. It's up to the ham sandwich to prove it's innocent. And I was like, what damn country do I live in?
They're trying to strong arm you just to do it.
They didn't indict her, so then they said, we're going to indict her dad. They indicted her dad because one of the people they talked to said that he had a bottle of 23-year. Guess who that person was?
Who's that?
Greg Anglin. Greg was the one that admitted taking the van with him.
Oh, yeah.
And they said he was the one that and so they done the RICO Act. They indicted the Curtsinger 9.
Was Greg the one that got the immunity?
Yep.
Okay.
And which I knew Greg. He worked under me. I mean, he'd been to the house. And see, a lot of people don't realize about a distillery. It's like a family. Man, you know everybody.
For sure.
You know their wives, their kids. And that was one of the things that always came with me. You know, we want to know everything you know because they didn't know anything. Yeah. They just had bits and pieces. And I told the attorney ahead of time, I was like, hey, I'm not going to make a case for him. I was like, I said, I know these people are my friends. I know their wives. I know their kids.
Yeah.
I said, if I'd done that, I said, I might as well just go out there and hang myself. I said, I couldn't live with myself.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it. And then, everything come on us. And then, with the things that a lot of people don't know, they see it and they're like, well, you got off this. I said, there's not a day goes by I don't think about my daughter and my son, the stuff that they went through, and the relationship with me and my wife.
Yeah.
My wife took it in the chin. She got booted by her realtor. Her gym went down. She got kicked out of the country club. So she had to restart everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it ain't been easy. It could have been a lot worse. I do understand that.
For sure, yeah.
And that's just like me and Rob were talking. I'm just trying to get back. I just want to I'm not looking to be super rich or anything. I just want to be comfortable, not worry about stuff. But you've got those entities that just want to keep you down.
Yeah. When it probably helps them more than anything because somebody's listening to this and doesn't know anything about it. They're going to be like, hell, I want to go try that.
They're
going to
start looking. They're going to start trying to find.
Same thing I told y'all earlier, like about the Pappy. I'm like, I don't even know what that was.
Yeah.
I started hearing about it. I'm like, shit, I want to.
My goal is doing when the Netflix guys came out, we sat with them for 2 months. And Derek, the director, he told me, he said, my God, he said, this is so much stuff. He's like, this needs to be a scripted series.
Yeah.
But they were only had enough money for an hour and 45 minutes because, getting down to it, because the one guy, Greg Harvey, that's what Greg told me. Greg said, man, he said, just hold it out. He said, somebody will come call. And that's what I want. I want a movie.
Yeah.
I want a movie or I want a series, and I want to lay it all out. Because I told Rob this the other day with what just happened with what I just got, through our mail. But I was like, I had people that I thought were friends that, and I'm not saying come over and kiss my ass every day. Give me a call. Yeah. I've got one of my buddies, they just, you don't even see it. It's like they're all your friends when you're going through it, but when everything's final, then they want to get away from it because they don't want you saying anything on them, which I wouldn't. But you know what? It's been 10 years. Yeah. You've moved on, and somebody comes and wants to do it. Guess what? I'm getting ready to tell what you done. Yeah. I mean, ain't nothing happened to you, so it's not like ratting.
That'd be a hell of a movie or a series.
Oh, you wouldn't believe the stuff that I've seen go on.
Saying the little heist show was amazing. If you flesh that out to a longer series, they got tons of them on Netflix. Me and my wife watch them all the time.
Well, that's what I've
and
said.
there's some on there that are far less appealing
with all the stupid shit they got on these.
Yeah.
I'm like, I said, as hot as bourbon is, how come nobody has? And there's another thing too. I've had a couple of the smaller craft distilleries tell me, like Jeff Mattingly from 1845. That's a good one to visit. But Jeff said, I'm just going to be honest with you. He said Buffalo Trace has got so much pull and power.
True, yeah.
Nobody wants to throw the first rock,
yeah.
right?
So,
and that's the thing. I mean, they should because of who they are and their brand and what they've done. But it doesn't mean that what happened here should go unnoticed. I mean, he did what he did. We talked about this. We're going to keep saying that. But there's other things to it. There's other stuff.
And good thing the Lord above don't have the same forgiveness that Buffalo Trace has. I'd already be down.
Like you said, it just helps. I would think it just helps their brand too, because people that don't know and make them interested.
It does, and that's what I try to. So my relationship with Toby is just strictly like, you can say this, you can't say this. Yeah. This is what I think you. I'm in no shape or way any type of legal advisor.
But I learned a lot from the Netflix show. You got to watch.
It's just from experiences. It's just from listening to people talk. It's listening to comments. It's reading posts. It's going through articles. I mean, there's tons of articles. If you Google,
oh my God,
type in Toby, then type in C, then his name comes up because
it's amazing. Some of the articles
where it's
I read.
At. So what I tell him is, you have to approach this in a way that you don't want to incriminate yourself, or you can state what the obvious things are, and you can you're not going to get in trouble for calling anybody a shithead or asshole or whatever word he chooses. You just can't go directly after someone and slander them, right? Yeah. So I help guide him through how to approach things, and obviously because we talk 2 or 3 times a day. He'll call me on his way to work, and just a bend to ear. I'm not saying he doesn't have friends; he's got a ton of friends, but
it's really weird, you know. And it's like, you know, Rob and I have talked. You know, Julie, she's, you know. I told her when all this happened, I was like, look, I said, I'm gonna do what I can. I said, but you're gonna have to pull the family. I was like, because, you know, that was our insurance. I was the main income. Mm-hmm. So, you know, and you know, after everything started, and I don't think a lot of people realize that. You know, I still had 2 young kids. My daughter was in elementary. My son was in junior high. And, you know, I'm not gonna get on this too much, but it amazed me of the cruelty of not just like kids in school, but the church we went to.
Yeah.
That just blew me away. I mean, it put a whole perspective on how things are. And you know, with that, you know, and like, you know, there for a long time, you know, and you know, Julia tell you, I mean, hell, we were at each other's face there until all this was over with. Yeah. And it ain't been easy, man. It's hard. We have our ups and downs. I mean, she has her struggles and I have mine, but, you know, she has stuck by me. That's awesome. And she's been there. And like, if it hadn't been for her, you know, we'd have probably folded because, you know, nobody would touch me. I was like poison. Yeah. Especially in Frankfort, state capital.
Nobody wanted association. No. It's like, you know,
because, bro,
it's a small town. It's
and it's like 38,000.
38,000 people.
It's like I was telling you earlier. All right, think about it. Just clear your mind from it right now. You're from here. Mm-hmm. You know, you told me 100-something thousand. All right, everybody you know has seen this on TV. Yeah. It wasn't just local. It wasn't just statewide. It wasn't just in North America. Yeah. There was people it was on the news in China, in all over Asia, in Europe. And I'm sitting there going, I'm just the simplest country person you've ever seen. And I said, look at this shit. I mean, and it is on the internet to the end of time. Think about that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And you've been around. A lot of people don't get out, you know, from, you know, where we're from. Yeah. But you get out, you see how big the world is. And I'm sitting here looking around, and you get around Frankfort. We've got friends. I'm not saying we don't. It's just different where we live because people just don't really want anything to do with you.
Yeah. It's a different perception.
But now, you know, I met you at Yellowstone last year. You came up, and you know, I love my state. I love the United States. That's the thing I love about America. You know, you got people coming from everywhere. We sound different and everything, but we're all alike. But it's good for, if you want to say, my soul. And I showed Julie at North Carolina, and we went to Michigan. I said, you see how Frankfort is. I said, I know you got a few friends, but you see how everything we were treated. Mm-hmm. I was like, then you go out and you see the love and the caring. I said, and it doesn't fail everywhere I go. Somebody always tell me, I want you to know I'm praying for your kids. Yeah. And you know that's everything to me, my kids.
And this is the story in these presentations, and it's not for everybody. Mm-hmm. And we talk about that, right? You're gonna go, you're gonna get a crowd, you're gonna get a mixed bag, right? You're gonna have, and you've had people like this. We haven't had any lately, but again, the market we try to target is bourbon lovers that you know share the passion for bourbon and a good story, you know,
a good. I mean, it's like I tell people, you know, a lot of people that work at the distillery, you know, because you know, people's like, I've heard people say, "Oh, I wouldn't do that." I said, dude, look, I said, here's what I'm trying to explain to you. You know, I grew up. My mom and dad didn't finish it. My mom had me when she was 15. You know, she went and got her GED. She has busted her ass, broke her back to support us, her and my dad. I said, we didn't have a lot. And you always striving. I was taught to work. You know, you go and you get up and you work. And I think I got a good work ethic. My kids have a good work ethic. I was like, but you know, when you do that, I said, you go down to the distillery, in which, I mean, things may have changed now, but back then, you know, you didn't have to have a high school education or anything like that. And I'm not knocking anybody because, I mean, I can talk to somebody panhandling or I can talk to you're all this. Everybody's the same. I love people. Mm-hmm. But the majority of the people that worked at a distillery, and you had a lot of single dads, single mothers. You had a lot of people maybe, and they were really struggling. One paycheck and you're done. You know, an event happened, and you've got somebody coming up say, "Hey, I'll give you $1,000 if you get me a bottle of that 20-year." $1,000 is more than you'll make in 2 weeks.
And you got other
That's
people.
what people don't
other
understand.
People taking it anyway.
And there are people's taking it, and the kicker, which you know, if they'll take. It's never mentioned that it's missing. Yeah. They keep it in-house because nobody wants the government to come and go over the books. Yeah. So, and that was the thing with Wild Turkey, because one of the things I thought was pretty interesting, I said, let me ask y'all something. The sheriff said he recovered 27 barrels. Everybody's like, all right. I said, and he said they come from Wild Turkey. I said, let's go with that. Everybody's like, all right. I said, now, Wild Turkey says they don't have anything missing. Let's go with that. Yeah. what's the bigger question you should be asking? No, I mean seriously.
For sure. Like, where's the
You're
where's the
so instead of looking at a multi-billion-dollar company, who is it owns that? Campari, the Italians.
Yeah.
Instead of going and looking at that to see
Looking
everything,
within.
The Fed I talked to, he said, after all this, he said, I'm going to make a statement. He said, now don't get me wrong. He said, I know you've done some stuff you shouldn't. And I'm like, I'm not saying I haven't. He said, but it all funneled. You fell right in the share. He said, you were the fall guy for every bit of this. And I'm like, I don't know if he was like, no, I'm not saying that. He said, but you think about it. All the wild turkey shit, all the buffalo trade, everything come down. And he said, you're the one that got pegged with it. And I mean, that's just the reality. It could have been a lot worse, but thank God it wasn't.
Yeah, for sure. Could be still sitting there right now.
And like I always say, if it hadn't have been for that, I wouldn't have met your ass.
That's true. So you'll never know who you're going to meet.
That's right. And, I tell people, I was like, it was a bad and I just think about my kids all the time. Because, I mean, therapy for 5 years and they still go see people. And, they have a rough time sometimes. My daughter will call me, broke down, and, my son.
Run into somebody in town or
some bullshit or something about
see
it.
an ex-friend or he would still say friend to some or ex, but or
some can't
ex-coworker
even
or something.
look at me.
Yeah.
But
the ones that, turn belly up, they, and there was, and, I don't have a problem with anybody that got pulled in that told the truth, because nobody wanted to be in this spot.
Yeah.
The problem I have, if you went in there and you lied, there's two boys, and I'll say it, I don't care. Austin Johnson and Sean Ballard. Sean was one of my best friends. Austin worked underneath of me. Austin was an ex-Marine, or somebody told me you're still a Marine, but he went in to everybody he was scared of me, and I shot my gun at people. It was a damn lie.
Yeah.
He would clean my AR for me, and he'd send me a picture. Hey, I got your AR, and he knows Austin. He'd send a picture, and he'd be naked with my AR. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? I said, my kid sees that.
Yeah.
And then my buddy Sean, probably one of the best softball players I ever played with, and about 6'2", 6'3", maybe about 280, destroy a softball. Played, Super Bowl and all that. Folded like a 2-year-old. Told him all kinds of crazy. But I think Sean had some more stuff. I think he was into some gambling stuff. That's my opinion, because I knew he'd done a lot of stuff. But those two were the ones that I heard was the ones that really hammered me. Yeah. And Austin, he just, I've seen him like 3 times, and every time I see him, if he sees me, he'll get in his car and go the other way. But
you don't want to face it.
With the exception of what my family, my kids, and my wife, and my parents, I said, I can lay my head down easy. I still think about some stuff, but I know there's a lot of them out there that can't, because a lot of them lied their ass off.
Yeah. Which, like you said, I think that's even worse, lying about it and making somebody else look bad.
And and some, it's like I'm thinking of a couple of people right now. Now that everything's over and nothing happened, and people know they were involved, and then they're, oh, well, he done this, oh, him, and then they don't have anything to do with me. Yeah. I'm like,
it's over and done with. Like
10 years.
We're not going back.
No, I mean, it is what it is.
It's a done deal.
Like I said, it was a crime. Something happened, but kill somebody. It wasn't anything crazy.
Well,
but then people that are lying.
That
throwing
was
people under the bus,
something,
that's worse to me.
I was watching all that when it was going on. Our little town there, it was something on the front page like 55 times. And I went in, was talking to my attorney that one time, and I said, I just don't get it. I said, what's all that? I said, I had a friend in West Virginia I used to go over and bear hunt with. Well, they try to say that we was illegal bear hunts. I was trading whiskey I'm like, they don't even drink. Yeah. But I was like, I don't get it. And she was like, well, you got to understand, said, Sheriff Melton has made you public enemy number one in Franklin County. I sat back in the chair and I said, public enemy number one. I said, Whitney, am I been going out raping women or something at night? Have I been molesting kids? Have I been beating old people?
A whole lot worse stuff.
I'm like, I've been getting people liquor that want it, and most of them are signing a lot of them's checks. Yeah. And that's why when it come to the end, after they got to investigate, they started whittling people off because people that were signing their checks was getting liquor. Yeah. Oh, you wouldn't believe? Oh, I could tell you. I'm not going to say it here, but I'll tell you some stuff later, and you're going to go, oh my gosh,
some craziness.
It is. I mean, it was just,
and it all could be based on speculation, but you put 2 and 2 together,
makes sense.
It's part of it. But
don't piss down my back. Tell me it's raining.
You can share some of those with the double deucey.
Yep. All right. Any other question you need to ask?
I don't think so. I think we can wrap it up. Maybe.
Well,
see what you got.
I will say, if anybody out there listening that's coming to Kentucky, reach out to us on
We'll put your info.
Bourbon King Events.
Okay.
.com.
I'll put the link on the
You can
everything too.
and
you can reach out. Somebody will answer. Full presentations, mini presentations. We
And
offer
tours.
meet and greets, tours.
Sure.
and,
Have a good time.
And the only place that you may have to go on your own will be Buffalo Trace. I am not in collaboration, not employed, not affiliated, have no relationship with Buffalo Trace or Sazerac companies.
You can just
But anywhere else, we're good to go.
awesome. I appreciate you coming on and
Well,
making
man,
the
I
trip
appreciate
down.
it.
It's been a pleasure and
Look
especially
forward to tomorrow night. Tomorrow
it's gonna be
night's
fun.
going to be fun.
the
We'll be at the
presentation,
sanctuary on the
the
25th.
football game.
Yep.
We'll have a
Hey, I
good
got
time.
one thing. Roll Tide.
There you go. Roll Tide.
It's the only time we'll say it is tomorrow.
I'll wrap us up here. Thank you guys.
Yes, sir. Thank you.